Good afternoon, fans of Rando, and welcome to this special Go Mode podcast presentation of a Link to the Past Randomizer Challenge Cup match. This is a round of 32 matchup between Maya-Neko and Spyweaver. Maya currently leads this series 1-0, but before we get further into that, let me get sidled up to with my co-com here, my good buddy, the baby-faced assassin, smercjd.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming out to watch this race. I'm really excited about it. These runners are both extremely good. At this point, you gotta be to get this far, right? So I'm very excited to see what they put on for us today.
Absolutely, we ought to be underway here in just another minute or so. So while we're waiting for that, I will say that the two runners here, Maya was the overall winner of Group U, with a 2-0 decision over Philisty, and then a 2-1 decision over, wouldn't you know it, my co-com here, smercjd. Then took a 2-1 victory in the round of 64 over Dark Wolf to make it this far. Meanwhile, Spyweaver was the Group AH runner-up. He was defeated 2-0 by Caiston in the first game. Caiston has a game later today in the Challenge Cup if you need a little more rando action later, but for now, let's continue with Spy, who then went down into the last chance game, took a 2-0 decision over Freddy N3K, and then in the tiebreaker match took a 2-0 decision over Dr. Bob-tastic, the golden voice that you all know and love from the main tourney, to make it here. And then in the round of 1, 2-0 over Tupperbox, and round of 64 play 2 over Oro. So we've got a couple of runners with a great deal of experience. Spy has played a few more games this tournament, but, Maya as a group winner, maybe your odds-on favorite here? Either way, I think we've got a couple of really good runners here. As I said right off the hop, Maya does lead this series 1-0, so this could be her chance to advance to the round of 16.
Yeah, it's. I like that you brought up their history here, because it really shows how much work they put into getting this far and how good each of them are. I'm definitely excited to see this. I managed to squeeze out a win against Maya-Neko, but that doesn't mean anything. Here they start, so.
The entirety of the Challenge Cup is standard 7-7 seed. This is not the main tournament. You will not be seeing hard item pool today. Our runners are entirely likely to find some mail upgrades, maybe a butter sword, silver arrows somewhere along the way, that 3rd level shield floating around out there too, if either of them decide they want it.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that, the shield, oftentimes people avoid getting shields to avoid some lag, but I think the most recent information is that even the level 1 shield provides that lag, so who knows, maybe they'll want to get improved shields.
And we have a hammer start. The hammer start, certainly one of the faster ones. It maybe not as comfortable as the old NMG style sword escape, but with that hammer you can mash your way through guards just as quickly as you want. Looks like we've got a blue rupee starting off that prize pack, so our runner's not really going to have to kill a lot of additional guards. No bombs on offer in this particular prize pack. They're going to have to either hope for them out of a chest or wait until they get into the dark and start slaying some rats.
Yeah, the hammer is definitely one of the faster times. You can take out the blue guards with 1 hit, and you can take out the ball and chain guard with 2 hits. So it's definitely a handy item, and it's also nice to not have to worry about finding the hammer later on. But like you said, the bombs not being in the prize pack of the guards, their only chance is the future chests and those rats. So we'll see if they can find some.
They're going to go ahead and turn up the key bright and early here. That has to show up by Dark Cross at the absolute latest, so, it's just something that has to get into your inventory, and now it's out of the way for them.
And to anybody curious about why the runners would be searching for bombs here, in order to get to the back of escape, the bombs are required, or boots, to get into that little back room where there are 3 chests hidden away. So that's the big search for bombs at this point. And to answer your question in chat, this is not a shared sword. This is the randomized swords, but since it's a standard start, the uncle has to give you one of, I think, 7 weapons, if that's correct.
Yep, it's either the sword, the hammer, the bow, the fire rod, bombs, Samaria, or Burna, I believe. I've made the list at that point.
Yeah.
Spy opting for a mix of pot and bomb strat, so you only have to get one hit in with that hammer. Maya opting for the double hammer hit. And while we were talking about what else they found, we've got some bombs in the chest there, and we had a French vanilla boomerang in the boomerang chest. Normally in NMG, the blue boomerang is there, but the red one turned up this time.
And, you know, everybody knows the red meringue is the best meringue, so...
Personally, I'm still Team Iron Meringue. It's the one attached to a chain and a red block that goes boyoyon.
The question in chat, this is game 2. The first game was a win in favor of Maya-Neko.
It looks like, accounting for the about 2-second difference in their start time, that our runners are actually in exactly the same place at the moment.
Yeah, it looks like, and they're both making really good progress throughout this escape. They both are very capable of getting that sub 6-minute escape time to continue on this, especially since they won't be needing to farm for bombs.
Yeah, they're both showing some really solid movement thus far, and as you just said, not having to farm rats for bombs here in the back mean they can just go chasing right on through. They'll just have to stop for that key rat a couple of rooms from now.
Yeah, so the other question in chat, this round 3 is referring to the round of the tournament. The first round and the second round was when we actually got down to 64 players in the bracket. So this is round 3, we're down to the top 32.
Unlike the main tournament, the Challenge Cup decided we were going to take pretty much all comers, and so we needed an extra round here at the start to pare down to a 64-player bracket. Maya, using that boomerang in addition to the hammer to try and stop those rats, had a little trouble finding the key rat in the grand scheme of things. Looks like it's maybe the low value pool there on the rats.
Yeah, it looks like, I think that was, or well, actually, was that the prize pack, the stun prize?
You're right, it could have been.
I think because she threw the boomerang, stunned the rat, and there was a small magic from it, so I think it was the stun prize. Getting the bottle there is kind of handy before reaching Kakariko. They'll be able to check the sick kit on the way. That's a check that a lot of people forget if they get a late bottle.
It's really nice to just be able to loop checks like that in. With the hammer, you kind of hope that maybe the magic powder shows up as well, and you can check magic bat while you're in the area. Another one that maybe that's a little easier to come back to, since there are some Dark World checks you can loop it in with, but, you know, by and large.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, they both made it out right around the 6-minute. And we'll see here, it seems to be about 50-50 whether people decide to check the Lumberjack or skip it and go directly into Lost Woods. Spyweaver opting to skip the Lumberjack check, but Maya looks to be headed towards checking it, so...
It'll save somewhere on the order of 20 seconds, but of course that information can be absolutely invaluable. Spy seeing that tier 2 tree pole, and Maya sees it on her side as well. The rubies are really nice to have, and a fire rod growing in the mushroom spot.
That's handy.
Maya also sees that small magic is the order of the day on this seed. It is also being dropped by the hoarders.
Oh, that's a hook shot on Lumberjack ledge. So we'll see how long it takes Spyweaver to get that information, since he skipped that check.
We see a map check from Maya-Neko that is a full crystal light world, regular crystals all the way around.
That's my favorite.
That hook shot on Anxiety Ledge looms large all of a sudden. How long does it take Spy to find that one out?
Now, theoretically, the hook shot may not be required if, Swamp Palace is not required, and if Spyweaver can do the Moldorm bounce. Is that right?
That could theoretically be possible, and or, no progression in the non-bonkable locations of Hookshot Cave.
Right, and that as well.
Yes, it would absolutely be logically required to win the game. There are some techs and some item and dungeon layouts that could mean that it is not technically required for a player with a certain skill set.
Oof. Maya, with that half heart, kind of scared me there a little bit with that crow. Oh my goodness. But she's in Kakariko now. She should be safe.
Just have to not walk into the next couple of bomb explosions, and then she can pick up the hearts here in the well like Spyweaver's about to do.
Yes, avoiding those bomb explosions is important. While we were, discussing that hookshot, they have also found a book and a sword. So lots of options early on. Desert is almost full clearable, just needing a glove for that.
Yeah, only that now that Spy has pulled that lamp out of the well and some flippers, early flippers off the bottle vendor, so the entirety of the early game water checks also available. The seed giving a lot of early possible progression points, and you have to wonder, Seed, can I have some actual direction on where you want me to go? Full crystals in the light world, you've got access to desert already, you've got access to all of the water checks already.
Yeah, this
a
is
bow, a glove, or a lamp, and, we know where the hookshot is, but we could see the mirror and gain access to Light Mountain fully.
Yeah, this is a gigantic Sphere 1. I mean, Sphere 0 is already big, but then you get Sphere 1 opening up like this, and it's just like, it's an open-ended RPG game now.
It will be really interesting to see. We have two runners who've already shown us at least a little bit of divergence in their opening route, and, they've been given options all the way down.
Now, Spyweaver did check the sick kit, right? I kind of missed that.
I believe he did, yes.
Okay. Just $20 on sick kit. Okay.
Our tracker keeping us on point here. That's Slowpoke showing off exactly why we have trackers here. Glad somebody has eyes on it.
All right, so there's the map check from Spy, and it looks like he's headed towards the South Shore. We'll see if he chooses to go left or right after the dam.
Yeah, what would your play be there? Personally, I would be tempted to go dam through Ice Rod Cave at this point, in the hopes that a glove and preferably also the boots shows up before I go over and make those desert checks.
I agree. I think that's what I would do as well. It's one of those things you don't want to go into desert until you're able to completely go through it. So without those gloves, it's it feels dangerous to me.
Spy seeing a second bottle there at the dam may well opt to pick that up, but we'll see here in a minute.
I think I would, but I mean, it's me.
It's a nice early safety. It only really cost you 2 or 3 seconds to pick up.
Yeah. And it could potentially save you a lot of time if you get into a tough situation. Now, fortunately, they did find the blue mail early on, so that does help a lot in terms of safeties. Like, if I saw maybe a third bottle laying out, I might not bother to pick it up at this point. Very nice mini Moldorm cave there by Spyweaver with the bombs. And same with Maya-Neko, seems. They both were able to get it down.
Rewarded with sword number 2, and there's that glove they were looking for. We've got a small chunk of mountain access. Going to need to see the mirror before that really opens up, but that does put a higher premium on the desert play now.
Yeah. It is a potentially full clearable desert. The only potential non-clearable part is if its boots locked, or if there's something important on that torch.
And at this point, you probably go over towards that eastern Sahasrarless closet area first. You know, Desert has one less item, Agina has 2 less items than Sahasrarla does, so there's a little more density to be had over there, but you would have to think that the Desert Blaze is starting to be on our runners' minds.
Right. I also wonder if they'll go ahead and investigate those flippers. I mean, they're very close to that Zora money. Oh, there's the Moon Pearl. Yep, looks like Maya-Neko is opening up that rupee farming hole there.
Yeah, Maya sitting just 39 rupees away, and Spy is going to do the same thing. They are both going to make absolutely sure that they have Zora money, so we are going to be seeing these flippers come into play here very shortly. Oh, but Maya having second thoughts about actually going in there.
Yeah, she's taking the gamble. It looks like she's hoping to find those rupees before, like in either on Hobo or on a Fall Fishing. So this could be a big deal if the money isn't there. And Spyweaver is able to check Zora, she will always have that in the back of her mind. Like, oh, I need to get back to Zora. What if it's something that I need? That said, you know, she could be saving a lot of time here. She does happen to find the money.
I wonder if she's going to save and quit out from Hobo here, because that Moon Pearl was the last piece of the Dark World access puzzle.
That's a very good point. They already... This is incredible. So those are all Sphere Zero checks. We have a potentially full clearable desert. We have mountain access. I mean, not a lot of it. We have Saha still. We have all these flippers checks available, and we have the Dark World access. So incredibly open. And looks like you're right. There's that save and quit. I think she thought about going further, but decided to do the save and quit after all.
And with that second sword showing up in addition to the lamp, also has access to Aga. Now, I can't imagine that she actually wants to avail herself of that play before the boots show up. You know, knowing where the hookshot is one thing. Ruining the light overworld before you could actually go get those boots and go get that hookshot is something else entirely.
Absolutely. Oh, is she doing... I think she
That was an attempted Houlihan, but she did not keep herself from falling in. So going to have to give it one more try.
Okay. All right. Meanwhile, we have Spyweaver coming back over here to this whirlpool, and we'll be seeing what's on Waterfall Ferry and Zora Ledge here soon.
And I do like this Houlihan play from Maya if she's intending to go to the Dark World here in the very near future, maybe after going and making that Zorlord check, because the 225 rupees in here will let her make most of the other money checks in the Dark World. The 110 to get into Pod, the 80 for Dig Game, the 30 for Chest Game.
Right, yeah.
Whereas Spy, after he spends 500, is going to be at 12 rupees.
Yeah, it'll be a little bit more challenging for him with those checks unless he happens to find more along the way. Now, chances are, you have Pipe Cave and, lots of other overworld checks available where you can find that money, but...
He also has a golden bee in inventory, so if he wants to start in the Dark World over by the Village of Outcasts area, he could stop by the bottle vendor and turn that in for a quick hundo.
Chat mentioning Maya did actually skip the dam as well, so that was a little bit of her time gain there. So we'll see if she goes back towards the dam area and then towards desert, or if she decides to put Dark World, or what she does from there. And Spy, what do you think? Is this mountain?
I think this is probably Village of Outcasts.
Ah, okay, that makes more sense. I was like, man, the mountain's only got a couple checks already.
Now, those couple of checks could absolutely pay out. It would not be the first time in the past week and a half that I have seen the old man hand out a mirror.
Right,
and not been watching somebody play an MG. I will will admit to some mild surprise that Spy, after having hovered over that golden bee, did not stop and drop that off for the 100 rupees, but, you know, he'll get into the Dark World here and see what's what anyway.
Did he not pick up the 20 from Zora? Is that what happened?
He
Because I
did
was like,
not take the 20 from Zora.
okay, all right. Because I was like, wait, how is he still at 12? I saw Zora give money.
Here's our Dark World check.
Hey.
We've got green pendant at Swamp. There was a regular pendant at Skull Woods. It looked like regular crystals down the left-hand side, but we'll let our tracker actually catch these things.
Pod is the other one.
5-6 at Mire and Ice. We've got Vanilla 5-6, even down to being 5 at Ice and 6 at Mire.
Wow. As a question in chat about hard resetting and saving the money from Zora, I think that the point at where he checked it, he had just checked Waterfall Fairy, and he got a bottle, I think, or he filled his bottle with a fairy, or maybe got an extra bottle. And so he might want to have kept whatever he gained there. But if it wasn't anything important, he could have hard reset, yeah.
I think he did all of that in one continuous loop from his play to the dam, so he would have been giving up the sword and the glove that he'd gotten in many more.
And the Moon Pearl.
And the Moon Pearl from Ice Rod Cave. That's a long walk to just regain those rupees.
Right.
And he does still have the opportunity to Houlihan if he really wants to.
Very true. Okay, and Maya looks like she took the Hype Cave into Pyramid Ledge area, so definitely divergence here.
I'll be curious to see where she wants to go with this play. You know, you have the hammer in hand, you have money to get into Pod, but no bow yet.
And, you know, what was in the bottle? Oh no, Spy got hit by a Wallmeister there.
I think that was an intentional free ride back to the start of that portion of the dungeon.
You're right. Looks like she's going to Catfish.
Wallmaster certainly better than no mirror at all. I agree, Cinaeth.
But yeah, what I was gonna say about Maya is like, does she have the potion glitch available to her here? I can't remember what was in the bottle.
I think she turned her bee loose up there and got a fairy refill.
Ah, okay, yeah, the fairy refill in the waterfall. I mean, the potion glitch is still available. You know, with the I think by dying, and having the fairy revive you, it still allows you to, you know, create the same effect with the scroll room.
I think there is a version of the trick that works like that. I am not personally conversant with it. Ooh, Maya pulling something very important there off the Catfish. We saw vanilla flippers in a race yesterday, but this time it's the other fish handing out some footwear.
Goodness gracious. So, I mean, now what do you think? Does she go do Aga and get that hook shot, or does she just... Oh,
it looks like it might be a desert play.
Yeah, damn to desert with those boots. Like you said, wait till you have those boots, right? But that's an incredible advantage for her. The longer it takes for Spy to get out there to Catfish to get those boots, the further and further Maya will get ahead. Simply because the boots give her that much more mobility, and you know, having that knowledge of the hook shot, it's something that as soon as she's ready to get that hook shot, she can go do Aga and get it. Whereas
as saying in chat, I am mildly surprised that she's not rushing Aga at this point. That hook shot opens up Light Mountain like nothing else.
Right. Where, you know, Spy, you know, he's looking for boots somewhere before he even checks Lumberjack Ledge, right? I mean, he might check it at some point, but without those boots, he may not be tempted to even go over in that direction. So it might be a while before he gets that information.
Without the mirror, his only other real option, aside from finding the boots and deciding to check it at that point, would be when he decides to make his Light Mountain play. And if he happens to find the flute and gain access to the mountain that way, it could be completely out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah. And that is correct, Great Corvid. Maya knows the hook shot is on Lumberjack Ledge. Spy skipped the check, so he does not know. That is a handy tempered sword there in Thieves Town. At least there's that.
Tempered Sword is where a lot of runners start feeling comfortable. You know, the Master Sword, especially in some of the later game Dark World dungeons, stops making the cut in a lot of ways. The Tempered Sword does a whole lot better.
Alright, so let's see what kind of requirements Desert gives us today. Looks like it's boot slot.
The boots lock is all well and good from Maya's perspective, probably even likes to see that, having found the boots in something that's a bit of an out-of-the-way location.
Yeah, if Spyweaver comes here before having those boots, that's an automatic time loss there as well, so... But that's the, that's the difficulty with seeds that are like this. When you have such a gigantic Sphere 1, I mean, even Dark World was, well, was Dark World Sphere 1? Because Moon Pearl was an Ice Rod Cave, and yeah, Dark World is also Sphere 1, so...
The hammer was the starting weapon, and everything else was out there in your initial set of checks with your starting equipment.
So yeah, I mean, the Sphere 1 was just incredibly huge, and when things like that happen, it's like, which direction do I go? And it can create a giant gap right away. But we'll see how it progresses. There's so many other things that can happen in the seed that we don't know about yet, so...
Spy seems to have been fairly thorough so far, so unless a bow shows up here, and even if it does, I think we're probably going to see the entirety of this Dark World loop before he heads for the mountain. Now, things he finds along the way may change that, but that seems to be the way his play has been shaping up so far.
Well, there's that single arrow of destiny there. Alright, and Maya heading over to the bow on Desert Ledge. So that gives Eastern. Palace is full clearable now as well.
That is kind of an interesting bow placement. That book showed up really, really early, so you've had access to that for quite some time. The answer to where to go next could just be tucked away on the boss of Eastern Palace.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Even though Desert itself was boots locked, the bow was only locked behind the book, so...
And then if the Armos Knights don't pay out, you start thinking, alright, this bow was so early. How inclined am I to dip into pod? And I think the answer for most runners is pretty inclined.
Yeah, I mean, by the time they get to that point, we'll see what they're still missing. I mean, Meyer being a crystal, we're gonna need that flute. Turtle Rock is also a crystal, so we still need that ice rod and we need medallions. So there's so many different things that are still available and required that, at the point at which they get to pod, they might feel very inclined to go for those 5 checks and, like you said, the early progression to it.
And we're seeing simultaneous boss fights, although with completely different bosses here by our 2 runners. Maya used the fire rod to good effect to get the first couple of land moles down, and after the magic ran out, had to revert back to some sword spins and slashes, while Spyweaver stays mostly on script in the blind fight, and within a couple of seconds of each other, and just south of 27 minutes, both of our runners have put their first crystal of the game on the board.
And it's a pretty good time for a first crystal with such an open seed like this. A lot of times you get a very linear seed that's like, okay, you must go to this dungeon, and then you see an earlier crystal. For me, it's I'm happy to see anything under 30 minutes. I feel like my first crystal is always in the 50-minute mark. It always feels so late. Okay, so looks like Maya is headed to Eastern Palace here. So the back of Saha and Eastern before Aga. Whereas Spyweaver, like you said, is probably going to continue doing that full Dark World loop. We'll see if he finds anything interesting. So far, he's only gotten the Tempered Sword from Thieves Town.
From Maya's perspective, the bow was really early. It's another crystal dungeon that she can full clear, and, maybe another sword drops into her lap to make that Aga climb just a little easier.
And Spyweaver finding a shovel there in the dig game, which is pretty fitting. But he will not be able to check it just yet without that mirror. So
You too can win this fabulous prize. The used shovel. It always feels kind of bad to leave the mirror checks behind on this Dark World loop, because there aren't a lot of great ways to get them back in.
Yeah. It's definitely been something I've forgotten to do after finding the mirror last, so... Alright, so... where do you think Spy will go after this? Do you think he'll continue over to Pod?
I think this is probably the Pyramid Catfish route he seems to generally have been avoiding. Now, I say that although he did go into the front of Pendant Skull. But Pendant Skull a little more overworldy than Pod. Pod has the problem of if it's bow locked, and depending on your potion count and other things, you maybe don't want to be ducking in there, especially when it's a pendant. If you don't need to go into a pendant dungeon, you really feel better when you don't go into it.
Right. Okay, well, yeah, it looks like you're right. He's headed over to Pyramid Ledge. If he continues on to Catfish, I don't think he'll be too far behind in the grand scheme of things.
As a rough rule of thumb, I've found that the boots are worth about 1 minute per 10 minutes, so call it 6 seconds per minute. Which is a nice advantage, don't get me wrong, but it's not the completely overwhelming thing that everybody kind of thinks it is if they don't stop and think about what the actual difference is.
Right.
And of course, that assumes that the person with boots is moving ideally. Sometimes people will make short dashes and actually throw a little time away.
Exactly. But unfortunately for Spy, he did not go over to Catfish right away, so that's putting that off even further. And when it comes down to and I think you're right. I think it's that's a good rule of thumb, the 1 minute per 10 minutes thing. Wait. Oh,
he's decided against it.
Okay, changed mind.
That's interesting, and I was getting ready to say on Spy's end that I could understand sometimes you want to make that Pyramid Ledge check first, just in case there's a bow there, when you're trying to go into bowless Pod otherwise, but no, Spy appears to have designs on Catfish now.
Good, that's good. It's one of those things, you were talking to me, before, where, if you feel like you made a mistake, try to correct it as soon as you can, and I think he might have had his mind on Catfish before and just kind of muscle memoried over to Pod, and I think he caught himself and it was like, okay, wait, when am I going to be back here? I already did Zora, so it's not like I'm going to come back here again, so let me go fix this quick and then go back to Pod. And he might even change his mind after finding those boots.
Yeah, Structural Mike, I think that our voices traveled 10 minutes back in time and reached Spy somehow through some kind of a grand rando player mass consciousness.
Yeah, we're, what
That
do you call
desire
it?
to see a closer match just reached out and changed his mind at the last moment.
So I'm curious, what do you think he feels like he got that later? Like, do you think he's happy with finding the boots? I mean, I'm sure he's happy with finding the boots, but like, do you think he feels like, Maya must have gotten him sooner, or
It's kind of difficult to say because yes, he could think that his opponent did find those sooner with a start at the spot below 4, starting at a hype cave check and going through pyramid and catfish, which in fact is what Maya did. But by the same token, that catfish check is pretty out of the way, and the other school of thought is, well, maybe my opponent just left this behind, was making some other overworld checks, and then the worry becomes, well, what if they went up the mountain and found the flute or something?
right. It looks like we're gonna see that lumberjack check from Spy. So he will find the information of the hookshot now, which is good. And we'll see if he makes a mad dash for Aga, or if he decides to do, the desert and eastern. Well, desert or eastern's probably not really on his mind, but the desert play at least could see what he decides. Looks like Aga.
Yeah, we got that immediate save and quit, and he is going to head right for the castle, so we're going to have some fairly simultaneous Aga Tower climbs on our hands here. A little festival of execution in the middle of our otherwise rando lives.
Yeah, Structural Mike mentioning that, he would have gotten the old man safe point. Um, once you've gone through Aga, I mean, unless you have the mirror, if you have the mirror, whenever you save and quit, you start off in the dark world at the pyramid. But without the mirror, you can save and quit to any of the light world locations.
That is a good point. Structural Mike really talking about some optimization there. You can save a handful of seconds with that save and quit if your next play is the mountain after you get that hook shot. And Maya's already out of the dark here, is just blitzing through with the fire rod primarily.
Yeah, I love having the fire rod for the Aga climb. I think Spy has the tempered sword, so that's pretty handy as well. I'm having a little trouble here with this second guard.
Yeah, not having any spare tiles to maneuver up or down or left or right, depending on what part of that little pot prison you're on, can make actually getting hits in on those guards fairly difficult. They tend to like to joust you quite a bit when you're on the same line with them. And so as you see there, Maya using the boomerang to great effect and is just going to knock them both off of those platforms.
That was some really good boomerang accuracy. I like that.
It's especially nice to see with the red boomerang, because if you miss with that, you have a boomerang going all the way across the screen, and then the guard's coming at you, and you're waiting and hoping the boomerang's going to come back. And do I slash the sword at him? What if it knocks... It'd be nice if it knocked the guard off, but what if it knocks me off instead?
Right. All right, if you want to take any guesses at how many blue balls Aga 1 will throw, feel free to put those in chat. I'm going to guess... I know it's already started, so I don't know if it's too late for me, but I'm going to guess 3.
Structural Mike, Maya did not go to the Village of Outcasts area, instead started at Hype Cave and went up and got those boots, and then went and did Desert, and got the bow on Desert Ledge and did Eastern before coming here.
Okay, have you actually counted how many blue balls this...
No, I figure that's the kind of thing we have a tracker for, right?
Oh, we're going to put that work on tracker too?
Yeah, we're going to put that on the tracker for sure.
Poor Slowpoke. Oh. I'm going to say that's been 3. So we'll see if there are any more from this point.
The nice thing about this is in the randomizer, the devs have coded this to be the same for both runners. We have a seeded Aga here, so as long as you don't miss any of the reflectable shots, both of the runners will see exactly the same RNG.
All right, so congrats to Slowpoke and Great Corbett for guessing the correct amount of blue balls. You get, yay! But I had a question about that. So you said like if you miss one, you know that can change everything. But is it the same like with Ganon and the teleportation? Like if you die to Aga 1 and come back, does it completely change it?
Then it would be different, yes.
Okay. All right, so both players have now completed Aga. See, looks like Maya-Neko doing the bonk rocks check, and is this the hook shot after?
This is the hook shot for sure. It can't be anything else. Even if she wants to go up the mountain next, you're not leaving the hook shot behind.
Yeah. That would be a little silly, wouldn't it? And I think Spyweaver is hot on her trail there.
Spy unleashing the bee trap out of that tree.
Yeah, in terms
I
of...
think we may have a ped check here on Maya's side.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, looks like she's going to the Lost Woods before heading up the mountain, so...
Or could opt to go ahead and get into the Village of Outcast area as well from here. Spy, it looks like, has the mountain on his mind.
Oh, wait. Oh my goodness!
Heavier things. Hi there,
my goodness! This is a pet seed. Wow. Okay, so y'all can be pet hype because this is one of those. You know, I'll make a note of this. I haven't watched all of Maya's seeds, but the ones that we played, I believe two of the 3 races we played were pet seeds, pet Aga seeds. So it must just be Maya's luck, I guess.
Well, it seems to be working out. That is the second time this seed that she has gained an advantage for making one of those checks that a lot of runners consider to be a little out of the way.
Yeah, first with checking the lumberjack, and now with checking the pet, so... She knows that she has to clear all these dungeons. Cinaeth, you rolled this?
Now, the nice thing about this from Spy's perspective is the mitts lock you out of a lot of the game. There's only so much you can do before you grind to a halt when you have a mitts on something like the pedestal. So it's certainly an advantage for Maya, but I don't know that it's one that's going to last really forever, and Spy can make a lot of checks beforehand. Really, the question comes down to how many things are locked behind those mitts. If most of the other progression is not behind the mitts, if the mitts are the technical go mode item of this seed, then Spy could get everything else he needs and run out of locations and find those on the pedestal reasonably quickly.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of things that it depends on. You know, like you said, the mitts lock so many things, so...
Like the mirror just showed up, and the ice rod, and you have to start thinking, okay, I got this hook shot. If the hook shot leads over here to that mirror and the ice rod, does this game want me in Swamp Palace for some reason? And, well, yes, we know it does.
Yeah, it's, you know, he might think at first that it's just a green pendant, but, you know, eventually it'll start... Because, like, you know, there's also the bow, the early bow on Desert Ledge, and so it does look like the game wants you to have at least look into those pendants.
Yes, Garrison, unfortunately, Spy decided to treat the front of Skull Woods as overworld, so has already been in the area, and I'm not sure how soon he might decide he wants to go back.
Alright, Maya going into the Mocula fight with Master Sword, Blue Mail, and 7 Hearts. This would be something that I would be still a little scared to go into, but it looks like she takes it down quickly and cleanly.
And we find that there is at least one item in the back there that was a piece of heart on the boss, but we know now that Spy has for sure left at least one item behind there. And now that we know that this is an all-dungeon seed, thanks to that aggro requirement for the hookshot and an item on the pedestal, we can just start counting by dungeons. Maya has taken a 3 dungeons to 1 lead.
The question in chat about Maya's sprite, when I talked to her about it, I believe she makes her own sprites. If you go to her stream, you can see her avatars, and she's got like 3 of them, I think, or maybe more. But I think she designs them herself, so it is pretty cool.
And I do see that Cinaeth is putting these out there in chat. This is probably a good time to remind you, go ahead, if you like what these runners are showing off, go ahead and give them a follow. It does help them out. It's always nice to see a little more support in your own chat when you're running the game. Maya-Neko and Spyweaver putting themselves out there, showing off just that you can have a little afternoon entertainment here. As well as, of course, Cinaeth doing our restreaming work. Our tracker, Slowpoke 316, I am miendiem, and beside me in the booth is smercjd. Spy pulling another crystal down. That's 2 dungeons for Spy and half magic off of the boss. It's one of the nicer safeties in the game, particularly if you can find something like the cape later on.
Absolutely. There was a point in time where I wouldn't progress without half magic. It was basically a requirement.
It makes a lot of things a great deal easier, Trinex chief among them.
Yeah.
As Maya finds that second item there, we had a full heart in the front and a piece of heart on the boss. While Spy, still charging around the mountain here, finds a piece of heart at the end of Spiral Cave, and that is the end of the Light Mountain adventure for the moment. Going to have to make some other plays.
I kind of wonder if Maya, after reading that the gloves were on the pedestal, decided to avoid the mountain in hopes of being able to get that mitts, or get those mitts before heading up there.
That is entirely possible. Now, we did see the mirror pop out up there on Spyweaver's side, so Maya is not going to be able to go into Swamp Palace without going up the mountain.
Exactly.
But I do think you're right. It's entirely possible that she wants to clear out these pinned dungeons down here in hopes of finding the mirror, having all 3 of them, and having the mitts before going up, which means she may be a little more thorough than she otherwise would be.
Yeah, because she's going to be desperately looking for that mirror, but not going to find it. Meanwhile, was that the dig spot from Spyweaver holding the butter sword?
Yes, it was. 45-minute butter sword, terrible seed confirmed, as though the ag requirement and the ped requirement hadn't already clued you in.
And it looks like, well, I was going to say Spy is headed towards Swamp, but it might be, what, Bombos? Oh, the mirror chest.
Probably K45 first, so yeah, going to start cleaning up some of these mirror locations. The mirror was the big progression item that he found up there on the mountain, so pushing that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I agree. Now, I wonder if this will lead him... Ooh, I don't know, like, when... Because he already checked the front of Skull. I wonder, you know, it'd be an easy check for Ped if he does go to the back, you know, now that he has the mirror. I'm just curious, like, what would lead him back up there? Maybe a graveyard ledge check or something along those lines?
Yeah, with the mirror, you could get Graveyard Ledge in with also a King's Tomb check without the mitts. So, you know, there is a reason to get back into that area, although it's not terribly dense right at the moment.
Right.
I expect before we would see something like that, we'll see the play into Crystal Desert, so he'll find the bow, and then we'll see Eastern. After Eastern, I would expect that, ooh, but hello.
Oh, so the
That's
flute's hidden behind that mirror.
That's really interesting, and again, that can't really hurt him because all that gives Spy right now is more mobility. Without those mitts, not going to be able to get into the mire area.
Right. So this, could help him make up some of that time that Maya may have gained through having the earlier boots. Having the earlier flute can give him that extra mobility to get around the map and make up a lot of that time. So this could be a very close race by the end, the way that it's going now.
The combination of mirror and flute really works wonders, as you were just saying. I think we might be able to parlay this into making up some of that time that Maya gained with the early boots advantage. Spy's going to go ahead and loose this goose really quick.
Get the salutes there for the flute. Oh, is he checking powder cube?
That's what it looks like. Kind of
Meanwhile,
interesting to choose not to tie this in with all of the Smith sequence, but...
Well, he doesn't yet know that the mitts are on his head.
Yeah, but he doesn't have the mitts, and he doesn't have the knowledge of them either, so from his perspective, this is really nice. And of course, he wouldn't be able to get into that section anyway, I'm being silly. And welcome to our Raiders, VTorp and party of 28 joining in. You are coming in at the 49-minute mark of a Challenge Cup match, a round of 32 game 2 in a best of 3 against Maya-Neko versus Spyweaver. Welcome, one and all.
Yeah, welcome, Raiders. Okay, and it's just like you said. I think you called it. Oh, he sees that bow there. You called him heading over to the desert location. Looks like that's what he's doing.
Hey, you're not going to lift that rocks, but he wanted to combo it all together in the Dark World, but something appears to be missing. The orange mitts? Yes, waiting out the desert cutscene is longer and slower, but when you have no mitts, that bow is still available to you right now.
Yeah. Alright, and Maya-Neko takes down Blind, putting her at 4 dungeons.
It will be interesting to see what her play is from here. Obviously, the final 3 dungeons of the game are out, but still has access to the Palace of Darkness anytime she wants it.
I do think she'll probably... Ooh, that's rough. That's a rough call. Like, do you go to the mountain now and say, you know what, never mind, I'm not going to keep searching for this mirror, or do you go to Pod? Because you want to have the mirror for Pod, too. I mean, it just makes Pod so much nicer.
Of course, from the perspective of a player who hasn't found it yet, that mirror could just be in Pod.
It absolutely could. Alright, so she's gonna get her shovel here. Spyweaver is gonna finish off Desert. And, he has the boots and the mirror, so it helps him go through this a little bit faster.
I'm trying to think because it seems like Spy's obvious next play would be to go ahead and go over to Eastern Palace, another one of those full clearable crystal dungeons. He's had all of this. He gained that mirror and has the access to Swamp Palace already, but when you still have a full clearable crystal dungeon on the table, I wonder about kind of the push-pull in his mind of which of these do I actually want to go for.
Well, I think since he has the flute, I don't think it's as much of a danger to do the crystal dungeons first. So I think I would probably also go to Eastern. Like, if I didn't have the flute and I was working my way down to the South Dark World area, I might go into Swamp with these items just because the game seems to be pointing in that direction. But since he has the flute, he can always come back.
That is an excellent point, and at that point I do think it comes back to he knows he needs the crystals to beat the game, so the crystal probably on the mind just a little bit more. But we'll see. He'll show us himself once he gets done taking down the land moles here in a couple of screens.
And with that Fire Rod and Half Magic and Butter Sword, I think it'll be a little bit easier for him.
Yes, I don't expect that this is going to take terribly long. We're going to see some fried worms here in a hot minute.
Alright, where is Maya headed? Pod?
I think this almost has to be the pod play.
Yeah, looks
but
like.
no mirror, so unable to get into the Swamp Palace.
Right. So Spyweaver, as you said, took out Landmo real quick. I don't think I even saw it. So very nice. So yeah, it looks like Maya is opting, for the pod play before the mountain, hoping to find something to be able to make the mountain. Hoping to find a mirror, really, so she can do Swamp Palace and take the mitts up to the mountain. Unfortunately, she's not going to find that there, so it's just going to be a slower pod clear than it will be for Spy.
At this point, it's probably also good to note that we have not seen a single medallion yet.
Yeah. We have no medallion. The Canis Maria is still missing. It keeps Turtle Rock and Misery Mire pretty sealed away.
And we had a bow-locked pod, so coming over here with a bow would have been a questionable play at best for Spy, but he managed to double back and find those boots instead, and it looks like he is on track for that ped check.
It looks like, yeah.
Now, given what we've seen at the moment, we have that mirror. I suppose we could still see Samaria or a required medallion or two come out of the mirror checks, but I'm starting to think that maybe we're going to see the last piece of our puzzle come together in Ice Palace once the mitts are in hand.
Yeah, it could very well be. I mean, there's so much density in Pod and Swamp as well, though. Like, even if they're not locked behind the mitts, they could still be items required. But I think you're right. It's probably going to start, the puzzle pieces are going to start kind of falling into place, probably starting in Ice.
Spy sees that pedestal and has no time for anything but jumping right back down into this portal. Now knows that this is an all-dungeon seed, although that's not what it was rolled as a setting. That is what it has turned out to be.
Yeah.
Required Aga, required pedestal, have to do all 10 dungeons and the Aga Tower climb. And this is kind of an interesting little... I don't know if it's an advantage, but it's certainly a difference in that Spy already has that mirror, and so is not going to have to go back up the mountain before clearing out all of these pinned dungeons and getting the mitts.
Yeah, I guess, like, the main advantage of that is, like, if you could get those mitts before going to mountain, you can do the mountain in one go, but he's already done the mountain once, so for him it'll be a second climb anyway. But it's going to be a required second climb for Maya anyway, so I don't think it'll end up being an advantage for either of them. The difference being that Spy is going to have the mirror for all of the pendant dungeons, and in particular, Pod is going to be very fast break compared to Maya. And same with Skullwoods, he had already cleared the front, so he doesn't have to check that other chest. Desert was faster with the mirror. And then also having the flute, he'll be able to get to those dungeons more quickly than Maya. So that's what I think the main advantage is coming from on his side.
And with that Mothkill, he did even up the dungeon count. It is now 4 apiece.
And looks like he's going to Pod. gonna clear that out real quick for swamp. So he can do that combo pod Eastern here. I don't even know if he's checked Saha's closet yet, so we can mirror here and check that. Or maybe he did. Oh, he might wait for, I don't know. See, I might have decided to go Swamp Palace to get the green pendant before making this pod Eastern play.
Yeah, with the knowledge that you need to perform all of the dungeons anyway, I can definitely see your point there. Picking up the green pendant before coming over here would have made a lot of sense. And here's Maya having to take the unfortunate long, slow walk back out through the dark maze, because no mirror and death warping on blue mail into 11 hearts is not quick, plus I'm pretty sure she still has at least one fairy in the bottle. Which she would have to divest herself of, otherwise it's another 7 hearts worth of death warping and the animation time for the fairy revival. At that point you're saving time by just walking out.
So we'll see how much time is gained here by Spy, because I feel like that's a lot. I mean, I feel like the flute mirror advantage is much bigger than the boots advantage.
Yeah, the ability not to have to take multiple screen transitions to get around the world and or save and quit to get yourself in range of the next portal you want to get into is really large. Save and quits are slow.
Yeah. I will say though, Pod was absurdly empty. So, you know, the other thing is like, unfortunately for them, the pedestal is holding, you know, a very important item that is required to even get into a lot of these dungeons, like Meyer and Tiara and Ice Palace. So, unfortunately for them, they have to full clear these dungeons. As opposed to like, oh, I know it's a pet seed, but I'm going to go clear all the crystal dungeons first, and then maybe go mode all the pendant dungeons.
I wish that I could say that I'm the kind of runner who would have the guts to just blitz through these pendant dungeons, go get those mitts, and really hang on to that idea that it is mitts to get my next piece of logical progression out of Ice Palace. I don't think that that's actually true. That anybody but the gambliest gambler is going to be clearing these dungeons out while they're here.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, it's tempting, but like, if there's anything important, then you know you're gonna have to come back, and you know that it's gonna be backtracking. So, it's just...
It's the kind of play you make that you would bank on if you think you're up against a runner who has a substantial execution advantage over you, and these two runners are much too evenly matched to start thinking about making a gamble like that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that would be too much of a gamble. Like, if it was me against you, that's something I would do, for sure. You can count on it. Next time we're racing, if you see something like this happen, where there's like mitts on head, you can betcha I'm going to go clear all those pendants first. And I'm just going to go mode them all, because it's all behind the mitts. And yes, homemade beer, we did miendiem. I'm blaming miendiem. He did say gambliest gambler.
You know, I didn't specifically say beer router, but I could have.
Okay, I think Maya is finally going up the mountain. I think that's what this is. So she's gonna find the mirror. Now the question after that is, will she check bomb those tablets before going into swamp to find that flute? Now most of the advantage that Spyweaver had with those items has been, you know, made. So we'll see how close they are after they finish, you know, crossing over each other's paths. So Spyweaver's going to finish pod here. He's probably going to do Eastern after this. And that will basically put them equal in terms of dungeons and areas checked. So we'll see where Maya goes after getting that mirror. They could be going into swamp at the same time, so I guess what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, and they've now both seen, well, the Spy will finish seeing once clearing out the boss here in Palace of Darkness, that those two pendant dungeons were absolutely empty.
Yep.
So, from Maya's perspective, when the mirror shows up, you kind of wonder in the back of your mind, I've already cleared 2 of these pendant dungeons and they've had nothing. Should I push some of these other mirror checks? And, thankfully Bombo's tablet is right next door. If you check it before, you check it after, either way, you're very, very likely to check that if you're going to be clearing Swamp Palace.
Very true, very true. Yeah, that's a really good question. I am curious to see what their approach to Swamp Palace will be. Like, I'd like to say, a left side skip for sure, but they might be tempted if they do skip it and still find out at the end that there's still 2 items over there. They might still go back. I can't imagine they would
this
skip
is a situation where I hard left side skip.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think I would skip the other items though. I mean, they're two on the way. Down goes Helmasaur for Spy, so that's putting him at 5 dungeons completed, or technically 6, right? Because Agate counts.
Well, either way, they both have the agate gill, so we can add that plus or minus, but Spy can get the Eastern Palace clear here next.
Oh, right, and Maya hasn't done Tower of Hair yet, so...
This is an interesting choice to do Spiral Cave before Hera.
Now, this is just me with that memory again. Did Spy do Spiral Cave after Hera, or did he bail after Hera? Okay, cool. I wonder if she's even gonna do Hera.
Looks to be leaving Hera for last if she can.
I think this makes sense. She's gonna go to Swamp so that she can get the mitts on the ped. And then when, because she's gonna have to go back up the mountain anyway after the mitts, right? So then she can just do Hera and combo that in with TR. I think that might be what's going on in the mind there.
Yeah, that is entirely viable. You just worry sometimes as a runner, well, am I leaving something like my Cane of Samaria behind in there?
Yeah.
A lot of these remaining dungeons, doable in some cases and nicer in others.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. If Hera holds that item, I think it's another one of those things where, like, okay, oftentimes Hera Basement has an item, and oftentimes it's something people skip. So it's kind of like Hera is just one item. What are the chances that the Cane of Samaria is that one item? Now, obviously, it could be, but okay. So it looks like she is knocking out those mirror checks before going into Swamp. Well, I said that, and then she didn't. We'll see if she does Bombo's tablet after Swamp, because right now she just knocked out Cave 45, but not Bombo's.
That's interesting. I feel like if you're going to do one of those before Swamp, I would do both of them, but, as long as you remember to do it coming out, that's fine too.
Yeah, because that flute is absolutely required. On top of making travel easier, it's required for Maya.
And yes, Homemade Beer, both of them have now checked Pedestal. Maya knew maybe 10 minutes, maybe 5 minutes before Spy did. Spy did get back over there and find that information out, so he knows that all of these pendants he's clearing are required. So and we'll see how thorough Maya wants to be here in Swamp. Going to go ahead and check this first chest.
And if I remember right, Eastern was pretty empty, so I feel like we'll see Spy go directly to Swamp after this.
That seems like the pretty obvious play from everybody's perspective. If he does something else, I'll be a little surprised, although if he needs to get that Sahasraral's Closet check yet, maybe now is the time for him. But you know, if
Oh,
you're going to be
right.
picking up the green pendant in Swamp anyway, maybe you just
Yeah,
put it off
yeah.
for another minute or two.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No medallion, no Canis Maria. And a mid-swap pet.
Something like Meyer's medallion requirement in ice and a French vanilla or even true vanilla cane of Samaria there. And then TR's requirement is just going to be under the doormat somewhere, if it's not the one that we pick up in Ice Palace to go into Meyer.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Sounds like rando to me, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, we'll get a fetch quest mushroom in the swamp. This looks like a left-right swamp play.
And for chat, I think that the question, well, no, maybe if we're getting an okay there, it's not. But just in case anybody has just tuned into this and is not really conversant with all of the rando terminology, Head is the Master Sword pedestal, where in the vanilla game you go to get your second level sword after you've collected 3 medallions. Or the 3 pendants, rather, which is what our runners are trying to collect right now to get the Titan Smiths.
I like that your mind thought of that question in all possible situations. You know, like when somebody asks, you know, what is PED, you know, are they asking what's on it or what it actually is? And yeah, PED, it does stand for the pedestal. So thank you for explaining that, mind you.
Yeah, I saw that and my brain did that quick double take, like, just in case, because we get new people into this community all the time, and, you know, sometimes the lingo is not always the clearest if you're not super familiar with it.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of things I was very confused about when I first started watching these, and you know, fortunately, I live with somebody that was able to explain everything to me as I asked. But not everybody has that. So, okay, so we see Spy into Swamp now. Let's see if Maya gets anything interesting out of left side. So far, so not. Just a heart container there. And a map. So nothing. So left side swamp was completely skippable.
Yes, the pedestal text indicates that that item is on the pedestal. So in this case, the pedestal itself is an item location, and that's where the mitts are. So our runners are having to clear out Skullwood, Swamp Palace, and the Palace of Darkness to pick up the 3 pendants, which are what are required to actually pull the item off.
And no worries, Adzi. We're here to help. All right, we'll see if Spyweaver decides to check left side swamp here, because if he does not, that will give him a little bit of an advantage there as well. And Maya-Neko doing the bomb dagger down here. Oh, there's a medallion! Our first medallion in Swamp Palace. If that medallion is required for entrance to Maya or TR, that will be, I think, the first item out of a pendant dungeon that is required.
And it does appear that Spy wants to go straight to the back.
Okay, so...
Interesting, I will note that that Ether Medallion was hookshot locked, being in the back, so, you know, here we have the hookshot coming into its own again. Of course, we were going to need that to clear the boss here to get the mitts anyway, but now it's done a couple of items worth of work.
Yeah, these are the things that are kind of hard to keep track of if you're newer like me, like what items have unlocked what, and you know, what sphere level is it, and so on and so forth. All right, Maya taking down this Argus. And Spyweaver catching up.
Spy, with that left side skip, has saved some time. Now, of course, we also found the big key in the back, so he'll know that there are at least a couple of items still in this dungeon, one in the big chest and one over on left side. Or, you know, it could, from his perspective, be 2 on left side and the other dungeon item in the big chest.
Yeah, very well could be. We'll see if they go back for that. Maya may or may not, and on the Spy. Looks like Maya is not going back. Oh, is she not doing bombos? Uh-oh. This could be bad for Maya.
I'm not entirely sure where this play is going either. Is she not turning in green pendant?
I think she might have been deciding about that. I think she was headed there and then realized she forgot to check bombos.
Yes, I think she's realized her mistake and is going to go ahead and fix it. This is a very good play.
Yeah, I agree.
It's unlikely when you make a mistake that there is going to be a good time to fix it, but the best time to fix it is when you realize you've made it.
Very good words of advice. I wonder who told me that before.
Oh, I can't claim the ultimate credit for that one. That's somebody that I've been learning from. And Spy is going to go back in and check Big Chest here, and probably then also dip over to left side for that remaining item, so time not actually saved.
So, if you decide to go back in and check both of those things, do you actually end up losing time because of having to go back in?
Given the big key location, I don't know that you're really losing any additional time. Now, you could have diver downed on the left-hand side here and gained some time over Maya, who did not, but now that you've gone to the back first, Spy not going to be able to gain any additional time with that trick.
Gotcha. Okay, well, that does put Spy in the lead now. He has taken over the lead in terms of dungeons cleared. Tower of Hera being the crystal dungeon Maya-Neko has not yet cleared. But I believe after activating this flute, Maya will probably check green pendant and pull the pedestal. I don't know which order she'll do that in. Oh, is this a powder check?
I think we're likely on Maya's side to see either the immediate ice or the play over to Meyer first.
Before checking the green pendant, or?
Before checking green pendant for sure. Yeah, I think we'll see the ped pull right after this magic bat check, and then we'll see one of those two Mitzlock dungeons.
Oh man, I would feel so bad. I would have to check the green pendant first. Like, I know it's just one item, but like, the Cane of Samaria. Or another medallion.
Yeah, I don't
Which
know
could
that
all
we'll
be nice.
necessarily see the play into Meyer, even with the Ether Medallion, if that is the requirement because of that Cane of Samaria, which is why I think Ice might be a little more likely.
Yeah, I agree. And you know, like there's still like all the new Mitz locations that have been opened as well. You have Super Bunny Hookshot Cave, you have all of the Smith Chain now. A lot of these extra checks that aren't dungeons that are suddenly available. And I don't think either of them have done Graveyard Ledger King's Turn. So those have been there for a while.
Spy wants to have a look at his fetch quest here. We're going to get a mushroom.
Right, that mushroom in Swamp Palace.
Going to go ahead and take the opportunity to stock up on another blue potion while he's there. If you're there anyway, it's a great time to do it.
Absolutely.
Alright, Maya, you have the mitts. Is it 8 or 6? No, it's also 2.
It's the mushroom.
Going to turn in the fetch quest.
I think this makes sense, you know, we're getting into those later dungeons. She doesn't, you know, since she didn't do Tower of Hera, she didn't get that half magic, so especially if Ice is her direction after this, you know, having those extra blues just makes it more comfortable.
Without something like Bombos, you do need that full magic bar. Without half magic to crack Cold Stare Shell, now there are tricks. If you can also get into the room with full health, then you can go ahead and use your Fire Rod splash damage and follow it up with Sword Beams and get some extra hits in. And Maya is going to make the smercjd play here and go ahead and turn in that green pendant before going any further.
I don't know if I detect shade in that smercjd comment or...
Well, you're the one who called what the runner was going to do correctly. Unfortunately, it was just a piece of art today.
Couldn't have been at least silvers or something.
Okay, here we are in the grand scheme of what to do with those myths checks. Maya is going to try the Mire area first. Going to see that the Ether Medallion is in fact the required medallion to get in, a vanilla medallion requirement. Now hoping on her end that the key is under the doormat in the shape of that big red cane of Samaria.
Is that bottle number 4?
Yes, that was bottle number 4. Maya-Neko has achieved bottle percent at 1 hour 17 minutes. Of course, that is not our race victory condition. It's just something that's mildly amusing to track.
Is that actually a race victory condition in any mode? Like, is that a mode? Getting the 4 bottles? I mean, we have a thing called the True Ice Run. Why can't there be a getting all 4 bottles?
Okay, now this is interesting. Maya's going to go ahead and get the TR knowledge here and make the Dark Mountain checks, probably also clear out Hera at this point, before making the play over to a full clearable Ice Palace.
Yeah, I wonder why. Like, is it still the search for the Samaria? I mean, on the one hand, Samaria is what's blocking TR. But if it's up here, then TR is full clearable, and then it makes Ice Palace easier, and then Mire, becomes a non-double dip. So, I think I agree with this logic. However, it's dangerous. I think it's a gamble that she's choosing.
I can understand the desire to know whether or not you have the TR medallion requirement, because once you find Samaria, maybe you're just in go mode. Of course, if you have the Ether medallion and that's TR's requirement, and the red cane is somewhere else, then you've made another mountain climb that you didn't need to.
Very true.
So there are pros and cons to both sides of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maya wanted the Mire area and then Dark Mountain, while Spy has decided that, yes, Crystal Ice Palace, let's make the play.
And looks like Hookshot Cave, Super Bunny Cave, and the Mire area was completely empty. So, it looks like the Ice Palace play seems to be the right idea.
Ah, and we are looking for Bombos. Bombos is our Turtle Rock entry today.
I think because of this, it kind of puts Spyweaver ahead. Unless the Cane of Samaria or Bombos is in some kind of weird location like Spike Cave or another overworld check. Because if it happens to be in the Crystal Dungeons, like here in Ice Palace, for example, he'll be able to go ahead and just completely clear out Mire and maybe find Bombos there and never have to do any of these overworld checks that Maya is going to do. Which is, the idea behind doing Crystal Dungeons first, right?
Yeah, Maya finding some red there on the Ether tablet, but it was not the right red.
Alright, we get to see yet again another Ice Palace without the Icebreaker. So we're seeing the Ice Palace bomb jump here by Spyweaver. Looks like he's got it. First try. Very well done.
That was an exceptionally clean lineup, using that spin slash to hover on the edge of that pit and get into the right position on the x-axis. And then a very clean couple of taps down to find the right y-axis position after laying the bomb down.
Meanwhile, we're seeing Maya-Neko do the bomb Hera pot over here. Looks like she got it the second try, so should save some time there. These techs you see that the players are doing right now, if you're not familiar with it, these are called glitches. They can be extremely hard. Some of them have to be pixel perfect in order to perform. And when they can pull it off within 1 or 2 tries, it usually saves them time from doing it the way it's supposed to be done. So even though they make it look easy, know that these are really challenging tricks to do.
Yeah, runners who have made it this far into the tournament have definitely put in the hours practicing to actually make these tricks race ready.
Yeah, that's a good point there, Cinaeth. I've never seen the way that Maya did that bomb parapod. The way that she did it is not the way that I've seen it done before, but I'm not super familiar with all the different ways it can be done. So, especially the bomb setup. I know the only one I can do is the hook speed one. So,
there are a number of bomb setups for that. It's really just which one makes sense to your brain, and go ahead and practice that until you're good at it.
So now we're looking at Spyweaver's finishing off Ice Palace here. We'll see if he finds any other important items. So far, he has not found anything useful. What this means for him is after he clears Ice Palace, he has not found for the Cane of Smaragd really is the more important one. He won't be able. He'll either have to go into Mire without it and hope that it's there, or he'll have to go do overall checks. So, the best thing for Spy right now would be to find that Cane of Samaria here in Ice Palace. If that happens, then chances are he's got a pretty good lead against Milo.
Maya finding another wrong red there at the end of Spike Cave. Just another 20 rupees. But
There's
Spy
Bombos.
pulls the Bombos medallion out of the big chest in ice. That makes the cold stare fight a little easier in some situations when you have Putter Sword and half magic fire rod. Bombos maybe not quite so meaningful as it might otherwise be, but it would allow him to save all the magic if he wants to use some more fire rod shots.
So, what I was trying to say before in terms of the Cane of Samaria being important, and I didn't count the items in Ice Palace, so there might be another item here on Cold Stare. But, having Bombos, even though that's the portal or the opening for TR, you still have the Cane of Samaria, so you can't really do anything in TR. So that means the Cane of Samaria is somewhere in the open. And since we've seen Maya do so many of those checks already, or I guess it could still be in Misery Mire, right? It could still be in Misery Mire for the rest of the world.
Yes, I'm really expecting to see that French vanilla Samaria now. Ice Palace has paid out one item that is going to let Spy into Turtle Rock once he gets up there with the Cane of Samaria. The question is, probably going to the Mire area next before making a mountain climb? But does he or does he not go in?
So Chad is making a point that Ice Palace was Samaria locked. So the game expected you to have Samaria before going there. I wonder if he is taking this knowledge.
It's good knowledge, but I think in this particular case he's down to locations where it doesn't really help him further narrow down the list of possibilities.
Right. Alright, well, we'll see if he decides to go into Mire without it, or if he decides to do overworld checks.
Getting that flute out here, kind of looking like overworld checks, although he could go back to 6 and make sure that he has Spooky set up properly, and it looks like that's what he's doing.
Looks like it. Okay, so this could be a really big play for Spy here. If the Cane of Samaria is indeed in Mire, I think it officially becomes his game to lose. He's a whole Ice Palace ahead. Yeah.
Now, he does not have the information on the TR medallion, only Maya knows that, so technically he could think that Quake is still outstanding for him somewhere, so maybe he doesn't go mode this if he finds the Cane of Samaria.
True.
And I'm
That's a good
reasonably
point.
certain at this point that we're out of other locations. So Mario has to be in here unless I've just forgotten something.
Well, we have the Smith chain.
Oh, yes, we do have the Smith chain. You are correct.
Maya has basically checked everything else. So I think that it's either the Smiths themselves, Purple Chest, or here in Maya. So I mean, 2 and 2. That's or hammer pegs. So 3 and 2.
Well, that's more or less part of the Smith chain anyway. You have to have
Yeah.
keys to get into that whole sequence.
Right.
So,
Right.
you know, you're going to be in the area at that point.
There it is. All right, that's go mode for
Panic
Spyweaver.
Mario.
Go ahead.
Is anyone surprised?
I think you've been calling this for a while now, haven't you? But yeah, that was officially go mode for Spyweaver at about 127.50.
Not only that, but it's a Godmire.
Oh my. Wait, that means this is a Smirkmire. Okay, we're not going into that. So Spyweaver, okay, like you said, it's not necessarily go mode. We know that it's go mode. He doesn't quite know that yet. It could still be Quake. But I think, you know, the general rule of thumb for most runners is like, okay, you have 2 of the 3 medallions, 66% chance you're in go mode. So I think you would treat it
Especially when
as
you're
such.
in something like Mire and you've already found one item and that was, you know, what we know is the go mode item.
Right.
What's the chance that... How much time do you want to spend looking around in a dungeon as long as Misery Mire in the hope that the one additional item in there is the other medallion?
Right, yeah,
And
absolutely.
that you have not already hit on the other medallion you need in your 2 and 3 chance. Especially when Ice Palace was otherwise empty.
Yep. Exactly my thoughts.
And we saw Spy practicing this in the practice hack before the game started. We're going to get some spins here on the small eyeballs. Silver arrows would do yeoman's work here, but, well, the silvers have not turned up just yet, so Buttersword spins is going to be the order of the day.
Still takes him down pretty fast. Now it's interesting, they haven't found the Cape or the Cane of Burna, so they don't have any of those, you know, invincibility items to use. But I mean, I'm sure they're not in danger of any kind of tough situations without those items. But it's just kind of interesting to me.
Yes, it always is interesting when you've basically full cleared the game and something that you feel like you have all the time is still outstanding. I feel like for me it tends to be half magic rather than one of the safety items, but you know,
Yeah.
that's the way it goes sometimes.
Yeah, I think for me, the most likely item I don't get that I feel like I should always have is the powder. I'm always so sad when I don't have the powder and I'm in GT and I'm like, why?
I could be so much safer. There are anti-fairies all over the place here, and Maya just punching those cold stare puffs into the corner, butta, down they go.
That was a very fast cold stare fight.
That's dungeon number 8 for Maya, but Spy is up to dungeon number 9 already, and is quickly heading towards dungeon number 10.
So, assuming Maya goes to Mire here, and, you know, does the same thing Spy does, about how far behind is she? Like 3 minutes? Ish?
We'll probably call it 2.5 for the Godmire if she goes there, but it looks like she wants the Smith chain first and shit. That's unfortunate from our perspective, but I can understand not wanting to double dip Mire. If you go into Mire, you clear the whole thing and the cane is not there, then you have to come all the way back and run through the first handful of rooms a second time. Doesn't feel great.
Very understandable play. It just is definitely unfortunate for her in this situation. Oh, there's also Bumper Ledge and Graveyard Ledge. I don't think she's done yet either.
This is definitely not a bad or a wrong play. It is just not the play that's going to work out this seed.
And that's a really good point that you strike on there, miendiem. A lot of people, you know, including runners, will think like, oh man, that was a bad play, because it didn't work out on that seed. But it really is just seeds are different and things happen. Like if you have a reason for making a play, like your reason is probably pretty valid. Not wanting to double dip Meyer is a pretty valid reason.
Yeah, we
Meanwhile,
know
oh,
that
go
it's
ahead.
not going to work out this time, but by the same token, Maya could have just found Cane of Samaria on Smith sequence while Spy was giving himself an unforced double dip of Meyer. That's just not the way the items happened to be laid out this time.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of Spy, right now we're watching him. He's gonna be go moding this dungeon. Well, there's that cake we were talking about, but right now he's looking for the big key. I believe he found 2 small keys and an item, so he still needs the big key. And if he finds the big key, he'll be able to steal a small key from the Pokey. Is that correct?
That is correct. He needs that big key to appear in this next chest here in the Chain Chomp room. Otherwise, we have a big key in its vanilla location, and he's going to be unable to steal that Poke key.
And it's just small things like this that you start learning, like where you can squeeze in some advantage. Does he still have a fairy?
I believe he does, and there is that big key we were talking about.
Those chain chomps are scary.
Going to go ahead and make use of the powder there. Sometimes when you dash through this next section there, that Pokey can be in a strange position. You can knock one of the little balls off of the bottom of it and it'll bounce into you. On Blue Mail, that's still going to do 2 hearts of damage, and that would have been down goes Spyweaver.
Yeah, indeed. Alright, Hammerpex had just a piece of heart. I mean, at this point, the only thing that could be advantageous for Maya would be something like the silver arrows, but it's still not, it's not enough to make up the time difference. And chances are the silver arrows are actually in GT or the rest of TR somewhere.
Silvers are nice. On the Ganon fight alone, they probably save on the order of 30 to 45 seconds versus having to spin with butter or tempered. Which is nice, but it's not going to make up the 3+ minutes, and even that's just what she would have been behind if she'd gone straight to Meyer here.
Right.
All of these additional checks, she's been bleeding additional minutes.
Exactly. Well, there's the gold shield. And a sword beam slash at the purple chest guy.
And Spy has found enough small keys here with the theft of that Poke key and then the one in the Crystal Whirler room to avoid Laser Bridge entirely, so that Mirror Shield unlikely to really pay any dividends for Maya today.
Yeah, Laser Bridge being skippable.
Spy also showing off a nice little bit of tech there. You can use the iframes from the hookshot. You are invincible while that is extending and retracting to skip through those fire bars without taking any additional damage.
And for anybody wondering what iframes are, miendiem did use the word afterwards. The I stands for invincibility. That's something I learned recently. I always just knew what they were talking about when they said iframes, but I never knew what the I actually stood for. So
it's another one of those bits of speedrunner lingo that we kind of take for granted at this point, but every once in a while, it does do good to actually say the things we're talking about in full. Otherwise, eventually we're going to lose any actual meaning to the term GG.
Right.
The number of people I can count who actually spell that out on any kind of regular basis are 1. It's me.
Oh, you actually do say good game?
I mean, I'll default back to the shorthand every once in a while, but I try to keep the actual term in usage at least regularly enough.
That's thoughtful.
There's Spy taking down Trinex, picking up crystal number 7, has completed all 10 dungeons, and Aga, this was not technically an all-dungeon seed. That is not the victory condition. But with the hookshot on the Lumberjack ledge and all 3 pendant dungeons required to pull Mitz off of the pedestal, we had an all-dungeon seed anyway. With those 7 crystals in hand, however, it is indeed time for Spyweaver to make that final climb up Ganon's tower. He's going to come over here and sit through a crystal cutscene where these stairs are going to extend and then rummage around in the basement of Ganon's tower where there are 22 possible locations that the big key might have been hidden from him today. He'll have to find that key to make the climb of the tower, have one more argument with a wizard today, and then he can finally face off against the big pig himself and attempt to end his reign of terror. He can attempt to rend the bacon right off of that pig, fry it up in the explosions of his demise, and try to even this series up at a game apiece.
So, as you can see, the chat is throwing in all these numbers. Go ahead and guess. We're going to be using Spyweaver's order of checks here. This is check number 1. 2 was the map, so he found a small key in a map, and now he's mirrored out and going left side. Guess the big key guessing game is officially closed. There's the Quake. Useless Quake.
While he's making these checks, Maya is also going for those Buttersword spins on the Phase 1 Vitreous small eyeballs. Takes them out in very short order, going to default back to the bow here for Phase 2. 7 or 8 sticks, I think one of those spins went in, so 7 sticks into the main eyeball. Vitreous explodes, and that is dungeon number 9 and crystal number 6 for Maya.
Meanwhile, Spyweaver has gone through 7 checks, I believe. It's on to number 8 here.
Yeah, the Hope Room to the left play is, one of the main book options as far as Ganon's Tower plays goes. But we call that room with the 2 chests on the right-hand side Hope Room. What you're hoping for is to find both a small key and the big key, and then you can just climb the tower.
So this path, the Hope Room full left, is there a name for that route? Is it the Hope route or something?
There probably is. I always just call it Hope Left.
Hope left. Okay, yeah. Because I know, there's like different names for the different routes, like the various colors of magicians and...
Yeah, some of the routes have been named by runners who use them, based on runners who kind of popularized them to begin with. I don't know that Hope Left ever really had a particular proponent. It was more of a generally agreed upon good routing decision.
Right on. Okay, I actually lost count of where we're at. I think that was 13, right? Usually by the time they get to Rando Room.
Yes, that was 13 at the end of Rando Room.
Okay. With the Hope Left route. Right, we only have a few people that guessed higher than 13. This will be 14 here. Silvers!
And
so
there
14
it is.
was a nice...
called it. Yep, the second bow just tucked away in Ganon's tower, unsurprisingly.
And that does make this fight a little easier. The silver arrow is right before the ice armors. 15, 16, 17. Alright, we have a lot of 18s here. Question is it actually tile room? And does he do it before going to the compass room?
I have certainly heard it said by somebody in the community that I respect that if you do tile room before your last location, it is a tile room gamble. For those of you who may not have gotten to see any of it last night, I do recommend blocking out a couple of hours of your time to watch the Game 3 between Cool Papa Bell and Mr. Scruff Ninja Tuna, wherein there was a tile room gamble. And that was not the craziest thing that happened in that seed. I will say no more. No additional spoilers. Just settle in for a couple of hours and enjoy. Right
you got me real curious about
this one, we've got a few minutes left in this one. Spy is going to make the compass room checks here. And if the big key doesn't show up, there it is.
There we go. Was that 20? I think that was check number 20. So Darkwing Doug. Looks like Darkwing Doug won the big key guessing game. If I'm correct, is that 20? I think it was 20.
That was 20. There was one more chest left in that room, and then there was tile room. So 20, 21, 22.
All right, congratulations, Darkwing Doug.
And now on Spy's side, we have this final Festival of Execution, and he has all the equipment you would really hope for it. That half magic along with the fire rod, silver arrows, and still 18 sticks in the bank, butter sword, blue mail, 14 hearts. Just have to charge through this this gauntlet area just as quickly as you can.
And he's doing a pretty good job of it right here. So turning on that cape, just dashing through these cannonballs here. Pulling out the silver arrows for this next room. Very nice.
Nice mix of arrows and sword usage there. Now going to go to the fire rod for these little Stalkos. It's nice when they drop that full magic.
Right? I saw that full magic. It's like that. It's handy.
Spy really is making good and interesting usage of quick swap here. He's kind of flopping back and forth between the bow and the fire rod depending on the enemies that he needs to put down. While Maya is going to get that second key there, gets to stay off of Laser Bridge, going to be heading for Trinex here momentarily.
Looks like Spy missed the Zero Cycle Lambo 2 fight with the silver arrows here, but he's picking it up there.
Just the one additional cycle, it's not bad, you know, it could be cleaner, but you know, sometimes you just miss, and when you can pick it back up like that without taking an additional 2 or 3 or more cycles, you still feel pretty decent about it.
Absolutely.
Spy now through a couple of my favorite rooms in the game where you get to use the Cane of Samaria to blast all those woods robes into powder.
Now, this torch room I've seen people do in so many different ways. I've seen the way that Spy is doing here, and I think I've seen that as the most common. But I've also seen people go clockwise, and so on, so...
And, you know, some people will go ahead and go with the fire rod, especially when they have half magic. I think that's more of an NMG kind of thing, where quick swap is not available to you, and so you just want to be on the fire rod the whole time.
And I don't know if you caught Spy doing this, but before going up those stairs to that second torch room, you notice he was just grabbing the wall there and kind of waiting. He had to be careful with the timing of that. If the sound had gone off, he could have despawned GT entirely, and he would have had to make the climb all over again. So that was very good of him to, you know, wait that out just in case, because it was very close to the time.
That is very decidedly a problem. It's another glitch in the game, and it's one of the ones that we don't like, but we take the good with the bad here when putting the rando together. If you happen to screen transition on the same frame that chime goes off, you will despawn the tower. That's not the only place you can do that. You can actually do that in the second room of Ice Palace. Once you enter the first room with the Freezor, you go through, and then that door shuts behind you. When you kill all 3 Baris in that next room, that first door will open. If you go down the stairs, having killed those 3 and the chime goes off, you'll despawn Ice Palace as well.
Oh my goodness, I did not know that. So we'll see if Maya what route she takes here. If she decides to go full right, or at least, you know, check the compass room, she might get that big key a little soon. Because there was a small key here in Hope Room.
There is a small key here in Hope Room, and finding a small key here, some runners, including myself, like to go to the right, at least as far as compass room, and it looks like Maya is going to be on team go right when you find the small key.
Yeah. Thank you for keeping track there, Slowpoke the tracker. That was 2211 for Aga 2 there for Spyweaver. And we should see a pretty easy Ganon fight here with all this equipment. It's what, 6 butter swings per...
6 butter slashes for phase 1 and 2. Yeah, 4 for phase 3, and then we'll switch over to silver arrows for phase 4 on Spy's side, and 4 silver sticks into the pig will end the reign of terror today. Spy, having the cape on there, grabbed a hold of the wall. If you are caped up and you use A to grab onto the wall there, due to the strange way that this game is programmed sometimes, your magic meter does not actually continue to deplete. So he was able to maintain a little extra magic in his bar there by doing that. And Maya found that big key over there on the right-hand side, is now making the climb into the first of the 2 mimic rooms here. But Spyweaver is in phase 4 and already has 1 stick in the pig.
Yeah. And so she will be missing the silver arrows since that was on the left side of the team. But she probably still saved quite a lot of time overall by doing that route instead.
And there we are with 4 silver sticks into the pig. The pig explodes. Spyweaver's going to stand there with that butter sword raised high in the air in that triumphant pose, waiting for that bridge to appear and to cross it. And there we are. Spyweaver into the Triforce room is going to win this race and force a Game 3. Everybody get your Game 3 hype and your GGs in chat for Spyweaver, finishing first overall here with a 1 hour, 48 minute, and 14 second time on Race Time GG.
GG's to Spyweaver. Wow. You know, it's crazy how close this is still, like with all of the differences that they made, like with Maya finding the earlier, but then Spyweaver finding the mirror and the flute, and all the routing decisions they made, like how close they still are in time at the end is just incredible.
Yep, we have a couple of really good runners who put on a really good show for us, and, even with all of those differences there at the end, we're still going to see, this finish time within, just a handful of minutes of each other. Maya opting for the fire rod strat here on the Landmos. They seem to be getting away from her ever so slightly. Going to go ahead and get into these Wizrobe rooms. Once again, even having spent all of that magic there, Cane of Samaria, especially on half magic, does not spend all that much, so you can use it to quickly get through these 2 rooms. We'll see what happens in the torch puzzle room here. There are actually 2 small magic decanters. There's one down at the bottom torch, and there's one on the bottom of the room, but Maya's just going to go ahead and spend a blue potion.
Yeah, I think she has a couple extras there as well, and, with all this equipment, I think it's easy enough to afford just using a blue potion here and not dealing with finding the decanters.
Maya's going to go ahead and make some checks up here, probably in hopes that well, she was really wanting a small key, but, the outside shot of silvers is also nice. Now, I found them, and we know that they're not actually there, but from Maya's perspective, they absolutely could have been.
I like that the priority was actually the small key for that one.
Ooh, the worm not playing nice with Maya, but she does manage to avoid being knocked off there. A couple of butter swipes into the tail of Moldorm 2. Down it goes, the ultimate chest of the game with a full heart container. Maya has reached 18 heart containers here.
I'm actually really curious to see what her collection rate will be, because she basically full cleared the game.
She did get to skip a lot of the GT checks that Spy made, but other than that, yes, she made a very thorough sweep of this game, looking for, in the end, the Cane of Samaria. Very nice triple there out of that first one.
Yeah. Alright.
The magic hand cover sleeps again forever. Yes, the Titan Spit's tucked away there on the pedestal, this seed. They've now done their work and can go ahead and have a well-deserved rest.
Looks like it was 3-1-1-1 for Maya-Neko's Agatsu.
Trying to chase that bat away with some butter sword swipes. So from a lore perspective, while we're waiting for Maya to drop into this fight, what do you think? Does the duck find a moon pearl of its own at some point while you're out adventuring? Is that how it comes and sweeps you off the top of the tower here at the end of the game?
Right. The duck normally only flies you around in the light. So that's a really good question that I think we really need to investigate further.
Maya with some easy butter sword swipes there through phase 1, just waiting for these fire bats to finish up in phase 2, getting a couple of extra slashes in for good measure. Maybe got a little bullied by those fire bats as they were flying away, but is safely into phase 3 now. And Ganon mentioning, did you find the arrows in my tower? No, unfortunately Maya did not.
It does look like she managed to pull off the torch glitch there, so...
For anybody we have with us today who is not familiar with that, once the left torch goes out, if you relight it before the right torch goes out, the right torch just won't ever bother going out. And we're getting some very nice spins here. There's a 2-frame window where you can damage Ganon with these. You could even slash with the Tempered or the Butter Sword while Ganon is trying to get away from you. The visual tell is when the arms rise in the air really quickly, but the spin animation is 30 frames long, so you have a much wider window to actually get your damage in. Slashing is much harder than spinning.
And does less damage, right? Or is it the same? For butter, it'd be the same.
For butter, it's the same. For tempered, you would be doing the equivalent of Master Sword spins and would thus need 24 of them. So not really ideal if you're on tempered sword. But there we are. Maya also going to stand there with the sword raised in the air, cross the bridge.
Did your GG's in chat for Maya as well?
Yep. We have a race time GG time for Maya of 1 hour, 55 minutes, and 11 seconds. Good game to both of our runners here. And we are joined in the booth by both Spy and Maya. Good game to both of you.
Good game to you both. Welcome to the interview section of this. So what'd you think?
What's up? I got pet seat. Still I was quite surprised to see that.
I guess I really wasn't, because I got to a point there where it was I have access to all 3 pet dungeons and 2 checks outside of that. So let's go check it. There's our mitts. Okay, that answers that.
Right. You know, one of the most interesting things for us as viewers, we saw you guys get all these crazy items early on, and your Sphere 1 was just huge. You had Dark World access, you had all the flippers checks. What in a seed like that, what makes you decide to do what you did?
At that point, I think it was just a gut feeling. I mean, like I said, I looked over things, kind of checked it out. It's like I have access to every single pendant dungeon. I have the book. I mean, the time I'm gonna save by going and checking and seeing if Ped is in play or not is just huge versus going and randomly diving pendant dungeons and potentially leaving them. Boss doesn't have an item.
Right. So it was interesting to see, the divergence between you two. It happened pretty early on and later on. Maya managed to get the boots on Catfish much sooner, but then, she also checked the PED and found out that the mitts were on PED. And I was going to ask Maya, do you think that you avoided going to the mountain in the hopes of being able to get those mitts and make the mountain a one-shot play?
Yeah, I had to get the hookshot anyway, so I just checked the pet after getting it. And then I wanted to do a bit of outcast and all the things to get the titans if they were there.
Yeah.
So it worked out really well for you insofar as you got both of those pieces of information, both the lumberjack ledge check and the pedestal check, substantially before Spy did.
Yeah, I should have checked in quite earlier when I found the book in the mushroom area. But then did it after getting the hookshot, just to make sure.
So it's kind of difficult to say with just how open the seed was, but were there any other really kind of general high-level thoughts that either of you had on this? With the ability to go everywhere and do everything, it's always interesting to see where all of these little points of divergence come from, what the thoughts of the runners were.
I pretty much pre-cleared everything, and then there was Mr. Maya. I didn't expect the Myra in there and searched everywhere.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I think that was probably the biggest time difference between the two, because there was a point at which you had done the same thing the other had already done. The difference was that Maya basically checked all of the overall checks that were remaining before dipping into Misery Mire, whereas Spyweaver decided to go ahead and check Misery Mire first. And you were both just missing the Canis Maria at that point. And so, that's where most of the time difference came from, because those overall checks, you did Hookshot Cave, you did Super Bunny, you did Spike Cave, you did the Smith Chain, all of these checks that are kind of time consuming. But we were talking about it, and it's like, it's a very reasonable thing. Both of the decisions were reasonable. Like, nobody really wants to go into Mire, full clear it, and not find the Canis Maria, have to come back out and go look at all those overall checks anyway. At the same time, it's like, if the Canis Maria is there, then you don't have to do all these overall checks. So I think that's, just one of the things that Rando is gonna do. It could have been anywhere. And I think both of you made the right play, if that makes sense.
It's 100% the case of, Rando be Rando. And truthfully, before, as soon as I knew those mitts were on Ped, I made the decision, like, consciously then. It's like, okay, we're going to do the pendant dungeons, and I'm just going to do straight dungeons and maybe one or two overworld checks. I'll pull the mitts, I'll go straight dungeons. I just don't care at this point. And I wanted to avoid, I guess, a second or a third trip up the mountain and wasting that time. Okay, well, let's go Meyer, and then let's just blindly throw this dart at the board and see if it sticks here.
Yeah. So you're saying that kind of came to you like, okay, mitts and then just crystal dungeons. Let's go. So that was pretty early in your brain. Like, that was a decision you made, right?
100%. As soon as I saw those mitts, like I said, there was that get me access to the last 3 dungeons. I figured let's do it.
Right. Well, it definitely worked out in the seed. We liked that we saw the Bombos show up in Ice Palace, and I think it was Bombos required for Total Rock. And so one thing we were, wondering about while you were finishing up Ice Palace and then finishing up Misery Mire was like, do you think he's gonna go do any other checks before going to Turtle Rock, but having two of the medallions, chances are, it's going to be one of those, right? But that Quake's missing, like, because you hadn't been to TR yet to see that it was Bombos required for it.
Yeah, the two medallions. I mean, 66%. I feel usually good about just playing that as if I'm go mode and not checking other things just in case. I mean, if I get up there and it's Quake and I have to go searching, I guess so be it. There's 6 checks and Super Bunny and Hookshot I could check right there because he's like hiding underneath the doormat, but
Right. So what this means is game 3 for you two, doesn't it?
Yes. Should probably be tomorrow.
I would imagine it'd be tomorrow at the same time if that works for Maya.
All right, you heard it here, folks. We're going to have a game 3 in the series, and our runners are intending for that to be tomorrow. Same bat time. I don't know if it'll be same bat channel or somewhere else, but I expect being a game 3, we'll find somebody to pick that up.
Well, I definitely want to say good game to both of you again. It was a very good show. You guys really put on an awesome race. Like I said, it was basically neck and neck until that very last, end game where it was just like, okay, you go left or do you go right? And one went left and the other went right, basically. So it was a really close race. You guys have amazing execution. So I very much appreciate that. Do you guys have anything else you wanted to throw in about this particular seed or anything you want to say?
Never again.
It was quite funny.
And I'm so sorry if I'm cutting off, Maya. It's kind of hard to hear you. I don't know if it's just my audio, and I don't want to cut you off, so I really apologize for that. But I was mentioning, I thought it was funny that, we played in groups, and we had, 3 Aga seeds and 2 pet seeds, and I was like, man, every time I see Maya play a seed, it's a pet, Aga, or both seed. It's like, what is this?
I seem to be somewhat unlucky, but it makes the Lumberjack check quite strong for me, at least.
But at least we can blame Cinaeth this time, the Restreamer, for this seed because he's the one that rolled it.
I thought that this was a standard tournament, not in all dungeons.
Right? And Cinaeth saying that he's blaming Virtorp for it, so.
All right, with all of that said, thank you Maya and Spy once again for agreeing to be restreamed here. I am so glad that we were able to bring a great show that both of you put on to our audience today. Cinaeth, of course, doing the yeoman's work there on Restream, pushing all the buttons, making sure all of the technical stuff actually works. Slowpoke was our tracker today, making sure that those trackers stayed updated. In the age of Quick Swap, we don't always get to see the runners' inventories as often as we might like, so the tracker more important than ever. I am miendiem. I was co-commed with today by smercjd. Smirk, it has been a pleasure. I will say, before I turn it over to you for a couple of final thoughts, thank you everybody who came out and gave us a couple of hours of your time for this Oops All Dungeons seed. I do hope you enjoyed. Look forward. We do not have a channel yet for Game 3, but I really do hope we get one. This one was hype, and I can't imagine that Game 3 will not live up to its billing.
Yeah, absolutely good points there, miendiem. I am so excited for Game 3. If it's restreamed, I'm definitely going to be trying to watch it. And if not, I'm going to be watching your individual channels. So I just want to echo miendiem's thoughts. Thank you so much to the runners. Thank you so much to the Restreamer, Cinaeth, the tracker, Slowpoke. Thank you to miendiem for helping me calm this. And thank you, chat, for tuning in and watching and being a part of this community. So I'm very excited, and I can't wait for the next race.
That should wrap it up here for us. This has been a Go Mode podcast stream of Game 2 Maya-Neko versus Spyweaver, and we are going to get a Game 3. But until that time, there is some more Challenge Cup rando action coming at you later this afternoon. I know there's a schedule kicking around somewhere for that, but you can just search around on Twitch. I'm sure you'll find us wherever we happen to be. But for now, let's go ahead and sign this one off. miendiem for smercjd, Slowpoke, Cinaeth, Maya-Neko, and Spyweaver. Have a good one, everybody.
Bye.